Good evening and welcome to Geekology. I'm David Sibilia.
And I'm Sven Harvey.
And tonight we're going to be covering the Eaglemoss official Star Trek Starship Collection.
We're up to issue 5 now,
yeah.
With the Warbird having come out. So we thought it was a good place to have a look at it so far and give a nod as to whether you should subscribe or not at this point. What we have done as well, because I managed to get 4 of the 5 from the test marketing last year, we can have a look at the differences between the test run and the final version that we've now got.
Okay, so there's going to be some photos for you to look at from the first run and then the present run of ships. Now, generally, what has been your impression of the ship so far?
Well, when I first got, I think it was the Enterprise D I first saw last year, I was very impressed with that. I did like the refit Enterprise when I got my mitts on that, because to be honest, I grabbed most of them through eBay last year, and I actually subscribed and only got the Romulan Warbird through as a subscription one, and then I phoned up to say where's my NX-01 from issue 4, and they basically stopped the entire thing for undisclosed reasons.
See, now I managed to get a hold of the Enterprise D and the refit Enterprise, no problem through them, but I never got anything else.
Yeah.
So
I think it was just a timing thing. I'm not quite sure why they stopped where they did, but when you look at the original series guide, there was only 5 mentioned in the series guide, so I've got a feeling that was literally what it was supposed to be back then. It was literally a run of 5 just to see how people would get on with it, but they didn't exactly explain it very well. So again, another customer service issue, because when I phoned up and emailed and whatever, when it stopped the first time around, there was no mention it was test marketing, there was no mention they were considering restarting it, and no mention of anything else to do with it. It was just, we're not talking about it anymore, basically.
Okay. Well, we've seen some differences between the first run of ships and the present run of ships. So let's leave the first run, because obviously that's not what. That's it. So we'll concentrate on this run. We've already critiqued the D and the refit when we covered this before. So since then there have been 3 more ships released.
I mean, quickly to recap, the D and the refit we were perfectly happy with them.
Very happy.
Especially with the price that those 2 ships particularly were. But this is the other thing as well, is you've got to, it's depending on how you look at this in a lot of ways. Because I get the general feeling from a lot of the feedback, people are going, oh, I'm paying £10 for a magazine that has a cover mounted gift. No, that's not the way you should be looking at it.
You're paying for the ship. The magazine
is the gift. Or part of the package, but it's that's the main part.
Don't get me wrong, I like the magazines. Okay, I had a couple of little printing problems with my 4th magazine, but that was just due to the way the magazine had been printed. There's a couple of ink runs, but the actual quality of the magazine is good. The print, the paper, I've got no issue. The content is good as well. I really liked the content for the NX-01. Because they showed the upgrade to the 1.5, which I thought was really nice that they had actually included that in there.
Which is Doug Drexler's one, which he's done various images for magazine, for the calendars for, which is quite nice. I mean, looking at the magazines as a whole,
there's nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I would imagine there's an awful lot of stuff in these that current fans will never have seen. I mean, we know it. We've seen almost everything that's been in them before.
The difference is we've been on the fan scene. Since day one, the next gen. You know, obviously, neither of us can comment on the original series, but even then, over the last 35 years, the amount of data that has been released, because the bulk of all the original series data wasn't really released until early 2000s.
Well, yeah.
That's when we started being able to get our hands on all the stuff that was archived.
Yeah.
Through both the collector's cards and the magazines and all the bits, and obviously, you know, when they started really launching StarTrek.com and all the subsidiary websites, you know, I mean, we've been able to get onto the data, but unless the newer fans are quite hardcore about getting their printed material, you know, the online stuff is just nowhere near as good.
To be brutally honest, when you're looking through these magazines, both of us can probably pick out where certain things were first published, and stuff like that. So if you've got, I mean, for instance, at home I've got the Star Trek Next Generation technical manual, the Star Trek Deep Space Nine technical manual, the Art of Star Trek.
They're not a patch on Scotty's Guide to the Enterprise.
Oh yes.
Actually, I got my hands last week on a nice little hardback for Next Generation that boasted a DVD-ROM on the inside that give you a virtual tour of the Enterprise. And I thought, is that going to be a new tour? And sure enough, it was the rehack of the good fun. Okay, so that aside,
anybody who's been around in collecting Trek for a long time is probably going to be recognising bits and pieces out of these, but it's the way they're presented, because you know you're focusing on each ship, and it's quite a nice way of doing it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you wanted to get all the information that's say in the Klingon Bird of Prey issue, you'd have to go through
several
movie books and Next Gen books and so on and so forth, and Deep Space Nine books in fact. So you know it's a nice way because as backup material to go with your model. Yeah, fine. It's absolutely, in fact, it's brilliant.
In all honesty, I can see a lot of hardcore fans keeping these, but people that just wanted the nice models, I don't think they're actually going to bother collecting them. To be honest, I cannot. You know, those I can see those going by the wayside because I don't think people are going to bother. So, fans these days don't seem to store printed material quite the same. I can see the virtual ones being saved onto a hard drive.
Yes, exactly.
You know, somebody out there is figuring out how to rip it off the site and do it properly.
Yeah.
So, but the toys.
Yes,
let's go. Leave the magazine for 2 seconds. I'll tell you why. There's a feature in the magazine that I want you to include in the last segment after we finish about this. So, right. Paint jobs.
Yes.
Not so impressed with the paint job.
Yeah.
The model's fine. Generally speaking, I'd give it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Because they've obviously, gone a bit sloppy on certain detailing bits, which obviously you'll be able to pick out on the photos. But the bit that got me was it's bleeding silver.
Yeah.
Through all the artwork and the TV series, it's been a sort of dark gunmetal grey.
Yeah.
So, okay, you can argue that the CGI model was probably silver, but no, I do not like the paint job, the colour's wrong.
Yeah.
And also there was 1 or 2 bits about this model that the first 2 didn't have. They were a slightly higher quality than the last 2 we received, but I still feel definitely, I'm not going to argue value for money because I think they are, but I do feel that the quality slipped just a little bit on the last 2.
Yeah.
That being said,
one thing I might say though about the difference in the quality of the painting is it might be down to the actual what they're working from, because with the Enterprise D and the Enterprise A there's an awful lot of reference photographs of the original models as well as the CG ones, things like that.
With the later stuff there's
so
only
I'm just
CG.
wondering whether with the NX-01 especially, because they never made a model of it, I don't think. I think it was all CG, wasn't it? And with the Warbird, because an awful lot of the Warbird shots after Next Gen were all CG, because whenever it turned up in Deep Space Nine it was a CG version. So
I was actually really happy with the paint job on the
yeah, I'm just wondering whether whether it's just little things that have been missed off because they weren't on the reference that they've been working from. In the Bird of Prey, it looks like they've moved from a different reference material from the original run last year, which is probably again simply down to the Deep Space Nine next gen version rather than being the original film paint scheme. So yes, I mean it'd be interesting to see what happens with the Reliant.
Yes.
That'll be a test, I think, of quite where things have gone.
Now, as we're recommending whether people subscribe or not, let's talk about our subscription gifts. Now, first of all, should we cover the folder? Because I actually used the folder. I thought the folder was quite nifty.
Yes, I mean it's reasonably nice design. I'm hoping future folders are a different colour, but we'll soon find out, I imagine.
We'll show you pictures of the pegging system that they use for putting the magazines in. Sven hasn't made up his one, but I've made up mine, so we can show you before and after shots.
And I must admit that I was a little bit disappointed when I first opened it up to find this plastic peg thing.
It's novel. It's very novel.
I was kind of hoping for the metal bar type ones that we had with, say, was the Fat Files? Did they have that, or was that Ring Band?
No, yeah, they were Ring Band.
Ring Band. I mean, there was some of the magazines in the past. You literally had a metal strips that went all the way down that you popped in.
But this is just a variation.
So this is just a variation on that, which is just a bit cheap to produce. So fair enough.
Commissioning plaques.
Yes.
I don't know why, but I kind of thought they were going to be full size.
Yes.
These are the ones that Franklin Mint released.
Which is...
I can't remember what year these were released in.
A long time ago.
But they're one-to-one scale.
This is a one-to-one scale. This is exactly the same size as the one that was on the bridge of the Enterprise D from season 4 onwards, I think it was. Which you can tell by the names on there.
Now, to be fair, obviously scaled down.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty good replica.
Yeah.
I feel they're a little disappointed that they didn't use metal for the com badge, and also there was a big quality difference between the one I received
and the
one you received, because I noticed two distinct problems with mine that were obviously moulding and manufacturing errors. The first being that the U on the USS Enterprise on mine is basically broken away from the top.
Mine's complete.
And I've got a line running straight down my E that doesn't go all the way through the side but does go across the top. So that's fine. Yeah. So there is a difference there. Paint jobs appear to be pretty much the same. Yeah. Very hard to discern any difference. So there is a quality difference here. Now, I've yet to speak to the customer support team because unfortunately I am a very busy bunny. But I'll be talking to them at some point this week and seeing what we can do about that. Because to tell you the truth, yes, it's a supposedly free gift because you pay for it. But I was disappointed in the quality difference there.
I mean, the one thing I might point out is that I've got a feeling that when they produced these, they thought the font from what they saw was stretched a little bit. Because if you look very, very carefully on the one-to-one scale one, is that it's kind of Times Roman, isn't it?
It is.
But extended slightly. It's actually longer.
I think it only looks that way because you're seeing it raised. If it was flat, that is how...
But if you compare them directly...
Oh, you compare them directly, it's a big difference.
There is quite a bit of a difference between the fonts.
And the colour.
I do have to question whether that font difference might be down to someone thinking that the image that they were using as reference was stretched. It might have been something as daft as that. But the one thing you'll notice when you've got them next to each other is the fact that the old Franklin Mint one, though it's one-to-one scale and it's got a metal com badge, the com badge is wrong. Whereas the painting on the new one is correct.
Is it actually wrong though? Because if you look at the reference material for it, We can't actually tell.
Well, that's not a right com badge though, is it?
No,
Because it's got the gold ribbon round the silver arrowhead.
It's not the right com badge, but Franklin Mint were very, very good at what they did. So without being able to see...
Without being able to actually go to the bridge and checking it.
I wouldn't need to go quite that far, but I would need to see some more detailed photos. Now, I actually looked through my archive data and I couldn't find anything good enough to actually make a definitive decision on.
Because the problem is the only time I ever remember seeing anything of the commissioning plaque in any magazines or books was always black and white drawings.
No, there are actually a couple of photos, but
they're not clear enough.
Qualities just nowhere near good enough.
Exactly.
So
that's quite interesting. But the fact is that they never said at any point it was a 1-to-1 scale.
Nope.
So fair play. It's a very, very. If you get one in decent nick, it's a very, very nice freebie. But let's face it, you're not paying the distribution costs and the retailer costs that you would if you buy it off the shelf. So it's all tied into the price of your subscription.
Now, I am more than happy, and I already have done, more than happy to recommend this to any Star Trek fan that is interested in it. Apart from anything else, I would actually really like to push the magazine because I feel that the more people they get to subscribe over an extended period of time, it has the potential to run for quite a while. Hopefully past their original intentions. Now, we know with some of the previous magazines that they've come out with, I mean, a lot of people will know them for the more recent ones, such as the Doctor Who and Batman. But previously they did the Star Wars one, didn't they? And numerous other. So we know that the company is capable of doing it. Now, I did say that I wanted you to leave the magazines for just 2 seconds, and the reason for that was something that you pointed out to me, because I must confess I missed it the first time round. We're going to switch to some photos now for you to have a quick gander at, but you can see where they've improved the magazine, where they've actually listened to the feedback.
Yes.
You pointed out several parts to me.
Well, I mean, perfect example, if we look at issue 1 of the magazine, is that, well, let's get rid of the intro to the series, because that was obviously very out of date, so there's only got 5 ships on it, compared with the new one. But it's silly, but if you look at the first internal page of, this is the test run and this is the final version, you'll note that there was no reference to how to bet your ship on its stand originally. Now that's got to have been feedback. Because people were like looking at the plastic part of the stand and going, where do I put this on the ship? So they obviously listened to feedback, which and again, still on that page, the difference between them using photo reference material and using the CGI. It just goes to show development of the product. So they obviously are listening to customer feedback. Exactly. Which is nice to see. And there's even a mention of their Facebook page in the new version. And now I know a lot of people in other reviews and stuff have actually mentioned that there's errors in some of the descriptions and bits and pieces on the magazine. They're not errors. What the confusing thing is that certain specifications changed over time. The Enterprise D, for instance, had specification changes from encountering far points all the way up into generations. It was basically, there was something changing each time. The number of decks, for instance. It might have had 42 to start with.
Number of crew. Number of crew.
That was particularly interesting.
Propulsion. Shield,
maximum speed,
social integrity fields. There was no element of that ship that stayed the same.
All you have to do is basically think of it like this: every time it stopped at the starbase, something changed.
It wouldn't even need to stop at the starbase. See, now, it reminds me very much of there's a very old story that was going around when I first started doing conventions about Gene Roddenberry. And when Next Gen was still in its infancy. First season.
Yes, I remember your review.
Yeah, we're not going to go back my review. He did a convention where not long after the dead encounter at Farpoint, and somebody said to him about warp factors.
Yeah.
Saying, and he'd gone, and instead of going, listen, this is fiction, it's moved along the times. He actually argued, well, he didn't argue, he actually put forward a reason why the warp factor scales had changed, rather than just going, nah, it's fiction. We needed to write it for this in one episode and this in another. He actually put an argument forward. So the argument's always the same. The ship improves, the ship develops, scales change, systems change. Big colour difference on that one.
Yeah, massive colour difference in the pages, and the layout's changed. So yes, they're basically, we're listening to feedback. So hopefully continuing on, they'll listen to feedback.
To be fair, I could rip any one of these apart, but what's the point? For what it is.
Yes, exactly.
It's I still say we're getting very good quality for money. Yeah. Okay. Yes. There were little things that niggled me about the NX. Yeah. But generally speaking,
But I mean, even then, if you look at that, okay, the silver's a bit bright. It's a bit blingy. Is that quite right?
But the main deflector dish doesn't come out quite as far as it should.
And things like that. But
tiny.
Show me another model of this scale.
Oh, I wouldn't.
You can't use the
This is it. Well, the Lightning is same size, but again.
Oh, no, it's a bit smaller, isn't it? But it's nowhere near as detailed as this.
The quality's not there. And it's a hell of a lot more money.
Yeah.
So there you go. Well, that was one of our briefer videos, as some of them have been getting a smidgen long. We hope that you found some of it informative. If not, you've only wasted a little bit of time, so there you go. We'll just scroll again through some more photos. Please feel free to check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Also, there's some wonderful deals going on with your store at the moment, so check out eBay and check out Sven's website. Don't check out mine because I haven't got around to it. Have lots of fun. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
Good night.